Thank you, and welcome to Mr. Patrick's Corner. Today we're going to talk about the wonderful knuckleheads in Ukraine. We have Zelensky, who thinks he's going to win the main war. We have the dumb Americans getting us into another brawl. Now let's see, we went to Vietnam, we lost 58,000. We went to Iraq, we lost about 22,000. We lost 11,000 in Afghanistan. We destabilized Libya. We lost troops. We didn't lose any troops there, but we destabilized the country, and now we have ISIS running all over North Africa. Also, Syria. Did we do anything there? No, we punted again, and we blew it. I'm a little tired of this kind of nonsense. Okay? So far, we've spent almost 300, we've spent almost 40 billion, then 50 billion, then they got another billion. That's a lot of money. Now these dummies don't think that, maybe we should have free school lunches, free insulin in this country, take over Purdue pharmaceutical company from the Schacters. We don't want to, if it comes to spending money on America, you might as well go outside and run around bare-ass naked because they don't give a damn. Look at Florida. Now, nobody said a word about Cuba. Did Cuba get damaged? Of course not. They're a communist country and they plan ahead. We live in Florida. We have DeSantis and Biden and the dumb shits. Okay, here's the problem with Ukraine. Number one, the guys that hold those towns are Ukrainians, but they're Russian speaking. They come from the Cossack generation. And I'm saying it wrong. I know, Tatiana, I'm saying it wrong. It's Cossacks. Okay? Right now, there are almost 4 million displaced people from Ukraine living in Russia. Okay? The Cossacks and the guys that they voted in the election, they got their guy in, and then the election was overturned because of money spent by the United States government to destabilize the deal, because they wanted them to go into the EU. Well, guess what? They might be in the EU's Article 5 and Article 6 and Article 7 would allow the stationing of foreign troops in their border in Ukraine. Well, guess what? The Russians don't like being surrounded. Now those wonderful little guys in the Baltic, how are we gonna supply them? They got Kaliningrad. It's the most heavily armed island. It's more heavily armed than Gothenburg, which belongs to the Swedes. Now, how are you gonna punch this? And then we have Poland. Poland was never supposed to be part of NATO. Then Boris Yeltsin got drunk and Bill Clinton gave him an idea that you can have, Poland could belong to NATO. It's dumb. We should have been pushing for neutrality. That means Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, the Baltics, neutral countries. If you're neutral, you're not going to get into a fight. Putin wouldn't have worried about it because they're neutral. But we're in this jam up. It's going to get worse. He's going to use tactical nuclear weapons. And I have a book about the old Soviet army, how it worked and how it functioned. And guess what? They believe in nuclear weapons. And you're going to hit them. And they're going to hit them hard. And then Zelensky's going to say, oh, well, you got to hit Russia. Right. So the next thing you know, Missouri, let's see. I'm trying to think of a good state that will get splashed. South Dakota, they will get nuked. Or Omaha, Nebraska, they could get nuked. Or maybe California out here. We have a base in Ridgecrest. Maybe they'll get nuked. Or San Diego. Why are we wanting to die for a bunch of incompetent schmucks that sold off all their military equipment, are a bunch of crooks, and I think Zelensky's a crook too. These people are not honest. Now, we have gangsters in Russia, and we have these thieves and varlets in Ukraine. Okay? Why are we doing this? It doesn't make sense. Oh, he invaded it. He took it over. No, he was basically, we subverted the election. That's number one. And we should admit it. We pushed a legitimate government out. Jimmy Carter was one of the observers. It was legal. It was a fair election. But what did we get out of this? Oh, well, we're going to take all of Ukraine and the Russians aren't going to do anything about it. Well, Crimea, believe it or not, has been Russian since 1781 or 84. That's a long time for people who don't know how to do arithmetic. And it has been the base for the Russian Navy, the Black Sea Fleet. Peter the Great tried to take it. Catherine the Great took it from the Turks. And do you know where the word slave comes from? It comes from the word Slav. The Ukrainians, the wonderful Russians and Ukrainians have been fighting against each other from word one. They have this anti-hate, okay? You got half the country's Catholic, half the country is Russian Orthodox. You got these guys, you know, they're going to help us. They're going to do this. Do you think the United States, the American people, are going to send $750 billion to rebuild Ukraine? Right now, you're not going to find anybody that's going to invest because for the next 10 or 12 years, you're going to have to worry about getting hit again. Just like Azerbaijan broke their treaty with the Armenians about Nagorno-Karabakh. Now that the Russians are tied up, they're driving the Armenians out of their homeland. I don't get it. We keep going into this deal, and we're giving these guys money. We're giving them stuff. Congresswoman Virginia Sparks from Illinois, she basically went over there and asked a very simple question. What are you doing with the weapons? What are you doing with the weapons? Where are the weapons that we gave you? That is the problem. And then we have the wonderful, the wonderful Europeans giving them all their surplus tanks and guns and everything else. They got Scorpions that were built in the 70s. The British had the Ukrainian scout tanks, Scorpions. And they were used in the Falkland War in 1984. They were used in Afghanistan. And we're giving them to them. But so far, the United States is going to contribute almost $90 billion. The entire EU, including France, including Germany, has donated exactly $1.2 billion. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's kind of paltry, especially when you're asking the American people to pony up on something they didn't get interested in because we want to punish wonderful Vladimir Putin. And Vladimir Putin was our choice back in '92 when he took over from Boris Yeltsin, who was a drunk, a thief, and everything else. The American people should know that when Russia broke up in '92, the Politburo, didn't owe a dime to anybody. Aeroflot, every jet was paid for. Every piece of equipment was paid for. There was no outstanding money because the Politburo never bought anything on credit. They bought it on cash on the barrelhead. We want this. Here's the money. Here's the furs, whatever, vodka. They traded, but there was never any money about a loan. Okay? Now, we're marching into this nuclear disaster, and Zelensky, we want everything everything back. You're not going to get everything back. What you're going to do is piss them off. Now, you start throwing rockets into Russia, and guess what's going to happen? The Russian people are not going to get mad at Vladimir Putin. No, they're going to get mad at you, and they're going to come for you. You've got less, right now, I think you have about 20 million people in population. The rest are women and children. Most of them are in the eastern side, and they're going to be gone. And if Putin he doesn't have to use nuclear weapons. He can use thermobaric weapons. Basically what these are is they blow up in such a way that they suck out all the air, and you basically die by suffocation and heat. They were developed to take out the Taliban in their caverns. Guess what? They work fine also for taking out people in the open. So, what do you want to do? I think we should have peace. I think we should actually get everybody on the table. Like even Elon Musk has, he donated free Wi-Fi to those guys. You need to settle this war now, because in the wintertime, it's only by November, the people in France are going to be freezing. The Germans are going to be freezing. You think that they want to freeze because of the Ukrainians don't want to make peace? Okay, how you make peace? You give Putin the land that he's got, but he loses $300 billion that's in overseas banks. And he agrees to pay Ukraine $100 billion a year for 10 years. So he has something to rebuild. Putin is punished in a way. He gets Crimea. You don't mess with his water anymore. You come to an agreement, and that's it. Do you think everything is going to be rosy? Look at America in 1812. The War of 1812 was basically, there was no winners, there were no losers. We lost casualties. The British and Canadians lost casualties. But basically everything stayed the same. And the biggest losers were the Native Americans. They got it in the shorts. Now, Levinsky wants to do it again, but guess what? Levinsky's going to do it. And then we're going to talk about ethnic cleansing. Are you going to allow all those Russian Ukrainians back in their country? Or are you going to drive them out and become no better than the Israelis? Come on, this is a no-win war. At some point, you made your point, he's made his point, and you come up to an agreement. Now, why did Finland and Sweden do something which was really dumb for both of them? They had a general before World War II called Carl Gustav Mannerheim, the Finns did. He looked over the situation the first time when they wanted to Russians wanted to put troops in the country, and he told them, "We got nothing. It's going to be a walkover." And so he told the president of the country then, and the president said, "No, we're going to resist." Okay. They fought a winter war. That was over almost 4 months. They killed a lot of Russians, but they lost for the simple reason the Russians had more manpower and don't mind losing it. And that's something I can't seem to understand why the Western newspapers don't keep pushing that point. The Russians take casualties. Americans don't take casualties like that. Are we going to start drafting we can't get enough troops now in our army. What are you going to do when the war starts and these guys say, "Hey, no, I don't want to go"? What are you going to offer them? Are you going to draft? Oh, that's going to work out really good. It'll be worse than what's happening in Russia because Americans don't want to die for some dummy in Ukraine. Okay, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed my talk. I think you should, if you want to, subscribe and like. And again, think about that. Think really hard about that. Because there's no winners in a war. It's just more and more casualties. Thank you again. Mr. Patrick signing off.